Epicurus, a Greek philosopher whose philosophies were a precursor to what we now think of as the scientific method, once posed the following riddle to the pious. Is God willing to prevent evil but not able? Then he is not omnipotent. Is he able but not willing? Then he is malevolent. Is he both able and willing? Then whence cometh evil? Is he neither able nor willing? Then why call him God? Christians aren't too fond of this riddle. On thinkexist.com, a popular quotation site, Epicurus' riddle is rated only 1 star out of 5. That's right, a quotation that handily refutes the entire moral law argument for the existence of God in only 8 short sentences is rated 1 star. A quotation regarding questions of theology and morality from one of the most important intellectuals in human history is rated 1 star. What Christians are saying is essentially that Epicurus sucked at being a thinker. That's like me saying that Bill Gates sucks at being a businessman, or that Drew Brees is a terrible quarterback. Why would I be wrong in these instances? Why can't these sentiments be chalked up to the great credibility-killing waste bin of human discourse? The bin labeled, well, that's just your opinion. I can't claim that Bill Gates is a bad businessman because his massive fortune demonstrates otherwise. I can't claim that Drew Brees is a bad quarterback because his player statistics and his ability to lead his team to a Super Bowl victory attest to quite the opposite. Similarly, Epicurus' refusal to believe in things for which there existed no empirical evidence was a precursor to what we today think of as secular humanism. He admitted women and slaves into his school and taught that the gods did not meddle in human affairs and were irrelevant to human life. He taught that death was the end of life, and that the end of life was nothing that we needed to fear. If he lived in our time and possessed the knowledge of modern science, it's fair to speculate that he would be an atheist. All of this being said, some of his thoughts and beliefs can be dismissed because in the 2300 or so years since his death, new ideas and new discoveries have emerged that utterly contradict him. So, to dismiss the riddle of Epicurus, to add his riddle to the list of his ideas that aren't fit for survival, the Christian must first satisfactorily answer it. Today, we will be examining the Christian explanations for the existence of evil in the world. Theodicy is a branch of theology that, according to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, provides a defense of God's goodness and omnipotence in view of the existence of evil. In other words, that quote that Christians all 1-starred on thinkexist.com as though it were irrelevant has an entire branch of theology dedicated to its refutation. A Christian on wiki.answers.com suggests that someone of faith is not persuaded by the riddle because Christians recognize that life is eternal and that our lives on earth are merely a test. In other words, God is able to prevent evil, but not willing. However, his motive is not malevolence or even apathy. His motive is to test us and determine our worthiness for salvation. Earth is the pinprick on your finger before the doctor gives you a sucker. This answer might have been somewhat compelling in the days before the advent of neuroscience, before we understood that consciousness is determined by the physical components of the brain. The immortal soul that would enable us to survive physical death and would allow our consciousness to survive has never been demonstrated to exist. Further, I established in my popular video, God Sucks, that the idea that our mortal lives are a test doesn't hold up to scrutiny. A test on earth is designed to gauge the abilities of those taking it. But the Christian God is already completely aware of the moral character of every human being on earth. So why would he need to test us? Oh well, let's set that aside and assume that for some reason God can't determine who is worthy of salvation without doing this test. It still doesn't make sense. Imagine that you're a 4th grader and your teacher has just handed out a test to all the students in your classroom. With each paper she hands out, she tells people how much time they have to take the test. Some kids are expected to do it in 15 minutes, and others are told they can turn it in next week. Some of the tests are long, others are short. Some have easy questions like 3 + 4 = what? And others have difficult questions like, what were the three main points advanced by Edmund Burke in his 1791 work, Thoughts on French Affairs? Would anyone take the results of such a test seriously? Of course not. In order for a test to be a measure of anything, it has to be fair. And in order for it to be fair, it has to be the same for everyone who takes it. The theory that life is a test holds no water because, as I'm sure you have heard, life is not fair. Further, if God was testing us, then the way you pass the test is absurd. You pass the test of life when you put all reason and logic aside and accept the divinity of the Christian God. The only character trait exemplified by giving up reason in favor of a 2,000-year-old book of desert tribe myths is willful ignorance. What sort of God would reward that? On the website experienceproject.com, the top-rated answer to the riddle of Epicurus is simply, God is none of those things. God is something more. According to the believers on experienceproject.com, those two paltry sentences, devoid of any substance whatsoever, are the best answer available to the riddle of Epicurus. But believe it or not, this is a common criticism of the riddle. The believer says, yes, it may seem to not make sense to our frail human logic, but God is beyond our ability to grasp. God is said to live outside the range of our reasoning. We cannot comprehend him. He is beyond us. The most obvious problem with this answer is that it's a cop-out. It exempts the concept of God from criticism and essentially renders him unfalsifiable. Imagine if I made the claim to you that I was my own father. Then, whenever anyone pointed out that I could not possibly be my own father, I would simply say, well, not by physics and genetics as you understand them, but us self-fathering people are an exception to the laws of physics and basic genetics. We are beyond reality as you can grasp it. I would be laughed at, I would be ridiculed, I would be mocked relentlessly, and I would absolutely deserve it. No idea should be allowed to squeeze out of needing to be explained simply by claiming to be above the rules and beyond our understanding. Some Christians try to reconcile God and the existence of evil by claiming that evil is nothing more than the absence of good, much like darkness is the absence of light. God didn't create evil, but he created beings called humans who could choose not to be good, and that is why there is evil in the world. This doesn't really add up. If God made man capable of turning away from good, he was still creating evil. Or if you believe in the literal creation story, he created man with enough of a rebellious streak to eat from the tree of knowledge and fall from grace. Either way, our biology is at fault for evil, and God is at fault for our biology. And how could evil be the mere absence of good? Is genocide the absence of something? Of what? Of kindness? Were there no kind Nazis? Of love? Were there no Maoist revolutionaries who loved their families? Evil is an act. We commit evil proactively. It doesn't simply emerge in the absence of good. When you don't put $1 in the donation tin in the front of the convenience store, it doesn't mean that an axe murderer was created. We human beings have one set of actions described as good and another set described as evil. Another explanation for the presence of evil in a world supposedly created by a loving God is that there exists another force in the universe dedicated to sowing seeds of evil. This force is most commonly referred to as the devil or Satan. Satan is the lord of hell, and he works against God for the souls of all mankind. God wants you to go to heaven and does all he can to see to it that you make the right choices and get saved. The devil, on the other hand, wants to trick you into being naughty and going to hell to burn for all time in an agonizing pit of flames. He puts temptations in your path. He makes you want to cheat on your wife, or steal from your work, or beat your kids. The problems with this are multitudinous. God is supposed to be all-powerful, so he should be able to destroy the devil instantly if he so desired. Failing that, why would God not manifest on earth to prove that he exists and tell us outright what we must do to avoid damnation? A God who allows the devil to exist makes no sense. A God who created the devil in the first place is still the author of evil. But what if there is no God? What if God is merely a fairy tale created to explain a frightening world and control savage people in bleak times? then whence cometh evil? Evil in such a world would come not from God, or from mankind, or from the devil. Evil in such a world would simply be part of the fabric of the universe, something ingrained in nature itself, a force for destruction and creation, a force identified with the suffering that all living things endure. The lion kills the gazelle. It orphans the gazelle's children to feed its own. One ant colony goes to war with another, and the winning ants secure a larger territory. A group of chimps gangs up on a single chimp who is not part of their group and beats him brutally to death. And in the process, they weaken their competitors for land and for mates. Just because human beings have reached a higher level of consciousness than the beasts who kill each other for territory, for mating rights, or for food, doesn't mean we have outgrown these evils. If anything, the advent of our technology, the fruits of our mental prowess, have made us the most evil and ruthless creatures yet. It is, as Shakespeare said, "The fault lies not in our stars, but in ourselves." In the directives implanted in our brain by the survival mechanisms instilled in us through billions of years of evolution. Evil is rampant. Evil has existed for as long as there has been life and competition. We've just been the first species to recognize it for what it is and lament its horrors. And we will never overcome these horrors. At least we will never overcome these horrors as long as we look at them theologically instead of scientifically. Perhaps God's greatest evil is that he makes people on both sides of the God debate turn away from the truth of evil. He makes evil acceptable, palatable, maybe even permissible. Until we can discard God, we cannot discard evil.